Guncon 2 support recently came out on the MiSTer, and that makes it really easy to get light gun games working for a number of cores. Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis, PlayStation even, Time Crisis games. I'm really excited about these two Super Nintendo games with the Super Scope, Metal Combat and Battle Clash. So I'm going to show you today how to get it working. All the equipment you'll need, how to set up the software, how to set up your CRT. I've seen guides online, but they're not very thorough. So this is going to be a step-by-step. It's actually really easy. But, you know, if you didn't know what to do, it could get confusing. So I'm going to show you step-by-step what to do. Let's get into it. Okay, so this is the equipment you're going to need. You're going to need a Guncon 2. This is the PlayStation 2 Namco Guncon made for games like Time Crisis. It works with a lot of cores. And on the end it's USB, and then this composite chingus right here. And this is important. The composite chingus, I think, is what makes the Guncon 2 stand apart from, say, like the Super Scope. It makes it more accurate than a lot of other light guns. So, okay, that's what it comes with. Like if you buy this online, it probably just comes with this. I checked online, they're like 35 bucks on eBay. When it came originally shipped, the Guncon 2 had a T adapter. If you wanted to hook it up to component, or if you wanted to hook two of them together. This is not the T adapter that comes with it, you know, that was shipped with it, but you can buy these online for like 5 bucks. There's like a little square one that is just a square, and it's got 2 female RCAs on one end and 1 male RCA. So it's basically like, you know, just this. Fuck, I can't do it. It's like as big as like 2 of these. So it'll be like 2 of these, and then there's a male on the end, and you can just buy that chingus for like 5 bucks, and that's what I'd recommend you do. I looked online, and if you want to get the original Guncon on eBay used with the original T adapter, it's twice as much. So save yourself some money and just get one of these. You know, it's you could make one of these. You could just take RCA cable and just wire it in. It's all just line wired together. The colors don't mean anything. Okay, so you need that. Of course, you're going to need a CRT TV. These are these big old boxy TVs, guys. They're not the flat screens that we're used to having on our walls. It's not an LCD or an OLED. It's a CRT, cathode ray tube. And you got to make sure it's a standard definition CRT. The easiest way to do that is to look on the back of the CRT where all the inputs are, you know, your composite, your RF, your component. If anything back there says HD, it's not a standard definition. It will not work with light guns if it says HD on the back of your CRT. If it says HD anywhere. Most CRTs are standard definition, so don't worry about it too much. Of course, you're going to need your MiSTer. Here's some optional things that I use with my setup that you don't have to get, but this is what I do. I have an extension cord. So it's, you know, get another composite cord here, or excuse me, like RCA cord. And I have like a female to female on it. You can get these at like Walmart. And I got that on there. And then on the composite end of my Guncon here, my RCA end, you know, I plug this in, and now I got basically an extension cord, because just with my setup, it's a long run to my TV, and I like to sit back. Like, you know, I got a big ass 36-inch CRT, and I like sitting like way back here and shooting at it. I don't like being all up on its grill. So, you know, extension cord. Time to hook everything up. So the USB part just goes into the USB port like any controller would on the MiSTer. And then your RCA cable, we're hooking up through component video. So we're going to use this T adapter, Y adapter, whatever adapter you happen to get. It's all going to be 1 male and 2 females with these. So just plug this in to either of the females. These colors don't mean anything. It's all wire just ran together. And actually for me, I'm going to use my extension cable. So I'm going to plug the gun into my extension cable. And then my extension cable, the male end, I'm going to plug into one of these females here. And component's probably the way to go with this. You can do it with composite or with RGB, but it's more complicated. And I'm a component kind of dude anyway, so we're doing component. Okay, so you see your MiSTer right there. Here's my MiSTer. I'm just gonna plug, you know, your USB in just wherever, just like you would any other controller. And now we got all this RCA stuff going on. So what's left on our T adapter is a male and a female. So you got to get this male in to the green component on your TV. So your component's red, green, and blue. So you're going to disconnect the green and plug this male into that on your TV. And then the green from the output on the MiSTer, you're going to plug into the female part right here. For me, I got a switch box. So on the TV out that goes to my TV I'm using, I'm going to plug in on there because it's just easier. You can connect it anywhere in the circuit. You know, I mean, traditionally you would plug this in to the TV, but we're going to use the switcher. Okay, so we're going to set up the Guncon to communicate with our MiSTer. The Guncon's all plugged in, and now we got to get it to communicate with the MiSTer. And then after that, we'll get it to communicate with the Super Nintendo core. So what you do is you go into like define joystick buttons right here in your main menu, just like you would any controller. And you should probably have a keyboard plugged in at this point. So we're going to hit enter. And then I honestly don't understand what this shit means right here. The stick one test tilt. So I just hit space bar, which is undefined, and then undefined again. And then, okay, now we're in here to define things. And we're doing our Guncon. So you got, you know, your right and lefts on there. So we'll do our right and lefts. Right, left, down, up. Okay, so see how it's flashing A button down here on our like virtual controller? You want the A button to be the trigger. So where it says A for your Guncon, we're going to pull the trigger. And now the B button, I like to use this side thing right here as my B button. Okay, and I don't think the rest like really matter. Like X and Y, it's like whatever. So I'm actually going to leave that undefined. So I hit space bar, Y is undefined. Now L, I map L to this A right here, because that allows you to get into the like the hard mode on Battle Clash. Okay, start and select. I don't think it matters, but I'm going to map them right here. So select, and then start, and then this mouse shit like skippity, skip. Okay, so now we're going to calibrate the gun's like light sensing qualities with our CRT, and this is kind of tricky. So the way it says to do it with the MiSTer is to take a keyboard. Sorry, I forgot to mention that you got to have a keyboard because you need to hit F10. So for me, that's holding the function key on my keyboard and hitting 2. And oh, I'm sorry, I have to have the menu pulled up. So if the menu's pulled up and you hit F10, which is what I just did, you get this menu here. And this is your light gun calibrator. So there's a couple things we need to do before we calibrate our light gun. First one is we want to pull up like a white screen. I'm not 100% sure why we need to do that, but that's what it says to do. So we're going to go and we're going to load, I'm in the Super Nintendo core right now. So within the Super Nintendo core, I'm going to load up 240p test suite under, I have it under my tools ROM. And we're going to go to test patterns and white RGB screen. You don't have to do this. I've calibrated it without doing this. You could just calibrate it with the black screen. But this is what it says to do, and it does make sense to have a white screen. So we have a white screen pulled up. I think I'm actually going to go to black screen so it's easier for you guys to see what I'm doing at the moment. So we're ready, like I'm just cycling through the colors here. We're going to utilize this white screen. And like I said, that makes sense because how light guns work is the CRT is shooting light at us, you know, and the gun has a sensor here, and when the CRT shoots at the gun, it bounces off the lens here, and that's how this gun communicates and you know, with the CRT knowing where the position is from a reflection. So in order to get a reflection, we need a strong light source. So now we have a white screen, which of course is a stronger light source than if it's black and it's not emitting anything. So another thing to point out is I've turned all the lights off in my room, which is what you want to do when you're playing light gun games. You want the lights off, you want the curtains drawn, you want it dark in here, so the only light that's shooting at this lens is the light from the CRT, so there's no confusion from the light gun. And another thing that you need to do is you need to go into the menu on your TV now. We're in my CRT's Sony Trinitron menu here, and go into video settings. Now when I first got my light guns, I thought they didn't work because I had to be right up on top of my CRT. I could only be about 6 inches away to get my light gun to work, and that's because I have my CRT color calibrated and brightness calibrated for a dark room, which is what you would do if you want to get the most out of your CRT. You kind of want it dark. You're going to get a sharper image. So, but because my CRT is kind of geared up to be darker, I'm not giving it a lot of light. Like if you look at my settings here, brightness is not very high, color is not turned up very high, picture is not very high. So what you can do here so that your light gun can communicate with your CRT is you got to turn these things up. Now I only turn up my picture, and that's because I've done a color calibration and a brightness calibration on the CRT. I have a video on how to do that if you're interested, and that really makes your CRT look a lot better than if you just set this stuff wherever you think you need to. But since I've already gone to the trouble to calibrate the CRT, I don't want to start messing with all this again and then have to set it back when I'm done with my light gun. So what I do is I just mess with the picture. This might be called contrast on your TV, but you need to turn this up. Like here's a picture down here. You might want to start just turning it all the way up. I've found that I don't need to turn it all the way up. With where I'm sitting, the farther you are, the brighter it needs to be. But where I sit, I can get away with just turning it up right about there. That seems to do the trick. But you're going to have to play with this. But just know you're going to need to turn your picture up. Yeah, so let's move on here. Okay, so we have our white screen. We're in the Super Nintendo core right now. And pull up your menu. Once your menu's pulled up, you need a keyboard. You hit F10 and that'll pull up your calibration, your light gun calibration. So we're going to calibrate our light gun now. So you need to be sitting where it is you want to sit to play your games, and just follow directions. So it says point to the edge of the screen and press the trigger to confirm. So see how the top is flashing there? So we're going to point to the top of the screen, in the middle on the top. And it says to pull the trigger, but if I pull the trigger, it backs me out. Watch, I'm going to do that. It backs me out. So what I've found to do in here is we're going to pull it up again. Oh, fuck. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, we're going to pull up our menu. I hit the wrong button. Our menu's pulled up. We're going to hit F10. And we're not going to pull the trigger. We're going to pull the B button when we're aiming at the screen. So I'm at the top of the screen, and now, okay, now it wants me to aim down. So you can see as I move the gun, those numbers are changing down there. So I'm aiming at the bottom. Okay, I pulled the B button, and now it wants me to aim left. So I'm going to aim left, and now it wants me to aim right. Aim right. Okay, I just did all my directions. So the light gun is now calibrated with our CRT. You can see the crosshair right now moving around, and it's dialed in pretty good. Looks like my gun is just slightly to the crosshair is to the right, just, I don't know, like a couple of centimeters from where I'm actually pointing my gun. But I tell you, the Super Scope was way less accurate than this light gun is. So this is an improvement over the Super Scope. You don't need the batteries. It's more accurate, whatever. So yeah, let's move on to the Super Nintendo, and I'll show you how to set all that up. Okay, one thing that can go sideways while you're calibrating your gun, like it tells you like, hey, point up and pull the trigger, point down and pull the trigger. When you're doing that, if you hold up and point the trigger for both the up and down directions, like if you map the up and down in the same direction, I don't know what it does, but it fucks up the MiSTer. And then when you load games or load cores, it'll crash. Like, it's not good. So if you're having trouble like that, what you do, you power down your MiSTer, you take the SD card out, you put it in your computer, and then you like come over here. I got it plugged into my computer right now. So we find like, okay, here's my MiSTer file. You go into config right here. So we're in config and find anything that says like gun calibration. For me, the only one I could find, gun calibrate, is it on? Can you see it? Yeah, right there, SNES gun cal. Like if you delete this file, you'll be good. Everything will go back to normal. And then you just redo it. Okay guys, I want to show you a couple things about light guns. So you can see my crosshair on the screen there. Now watch, if I just back up the gun, I'm going to move the gun back, the crosshair disappears. So if you get too far away from your screen, your crosshair can disappear. Another thing that affects it is, see the picture setting down here at the bottom? Alright, watch. I'm going to hold my gun in the same spot. You can see the crosshair. But if I turn the picture down, crosshair disappears. So now I'm going to turn my picture up. Crosshair comes back. So you can mess around with this with, your picture setting and your gun with the crosshair on there, and figure out what you need to do with your setup. Every CRT is different. I can say these flat screen CRTs that I use, they work just as good as the curved glass. I had a curved in here. It did not make a difference. If anything, the flat's kind of better because on the edges here, it doesn't curve away, which seems to get confusing if enemies pop up in the corners. I guess one other thing to show is, so watch, if I go to like a black screen, the crosshair just disappears because now there's no light getting shot at the gun. Okay, so let's set up our Super Nintendo settings. So we need to be in the Super Nintendo core, which we are right now. And let's see, okay, Super Nintendo core, somewhere in here, I think it's hardware. Here we are, yeah, so you go into the hardware setting under your Super Nintendo core, and you got all this stuff. So what you need to do is go down to Super Scope, and I have it on Joy 2. It might make a difference like what hub you're plugged into, whether you have it, oh, I just messed it up. Okay, let's go back into hardware. It's working with me with Joy 2. Your other options are Joy 1, mouse, whatever. I have it on Joy 2 and that's working. You might need to mess with that depending on where your USB part of your Guncon is plugged into your MiSTer. And then Super Scope button, Joy, crosshair. You can have a small crosshair or a big one. See how it does that? Big one or small one. Okay, now there's something to talk about here with this crosshair. This crosshair breaks the game. It makes it so that you can play these games as if your gun is really a mouse, and you're not really having the full Guncon experience with the crosshair turned on. However, it does make the games a lot easier. So, I don't know what to tell you. You can mess with it. I would say use the small one to kind of get used to it until you figure out how things are working, but you really should try to experience these games with the crosshair off, and that'll make you actually like look down the sights of your Guncon and aim. But if you're having a hard time with that, if you can't get your screen calibrated right, just leave the crosshair on, and at that point, like I said, you're basically using your Guncon as a mouse. And then gun type is Super Scope. You can have Justifier. I guess I'm using Super Scope and that's working for me. And that's it, guys. You're playing games. So for me, the Super Nintendo is like the main attraction to having light gun support on the MiSTer. The light gun to me feels like a toy. Like it doesn't really feel like a game. Like, I'm not saying that in a negative way, but I pick it up for a little bit and then I'm done with it. But there's two games on the Super Nintendo that they just work with that kind of toy, kind of pick up for like 20 minutes, don't get super involved with. And that's Battle Clash, and then I think it's Metal Soldier or something, Falcon's Revenge. So Battle Clash is like a North American game. It's easy to find. But what is it? Falcon's Revenge, the other Super Scope game, I had a hard time finding it. Turns out I don't think it was released in North America. But if I go into like my ROM pack here, it's under Special Chip Games, Metal Combat. Here it is, right here, Falcon's Revenge, Metal Combat. This game has arguably the best graphics on the Super Nintendo. It's just beautiful. It's got that anime vibe. Yeah, man. It's something that everybody should experience. And these games are really easy to just pick up and play. So hey, check it out. We got our light gun working, shoot screen. We're going to fly right into, okay, it says calibrate it. Let's see, I'm pointing right at the center of the screen. And it is dialed in, guys. Like, look at that. I'm pointing at the center and my crosshair is right at the center. So like with the Super Scope, I never even got like the original Super Scope. I used to play with that as a kid and it was never spot on like this. So I'm moving the crosshair around right now, just kind of checking to make sure, like, see how it drops off a little bit down there? Like sometimes it'll drop off. You know, actually it's doing really good right now. So yeah, man, I mean, we're flying. We're ready to play some games. Yeah, the PlayStation has some really good games too. It has Time Crisis on it. I haven't messed around with that. I actually have a PlayStation and a Guncon, an original, so, you know, I don't need to do that. I can just hook up my original stuff. But I don't have a Super Scope, and I've been wanting to play Battle Clash and Falcon's Revenge for days, guys. Like, this game's got the anime vibes. It's got these cutscenes. The graphics are amazing. Like, everybody needs to experience this game right here. Yeah, so we're playing right now. We're shooting, we're playing. Yeah, what else to say? I mean, I think that about covers it. Like, go out there and beat you some Super Scope games, guys.